Good morning. Today we're taking a look at one of the Cartoon Network's strangest yet most beloved shows, Uncle Grandpa. If you don't know, the show centers around, shocker, Uncle Grandpa, who's simultaneously the uncle and grandpa of everybody in the world. He and his gang of friends go around and solve the problems of whoever needs him most. But who are his friends? Well, first we have Mr. Gus, a dinosaur man known for taking care of the RV and almost acting as like a bodyguard for the characters throughout the show. We also have Pizza Steve, the cool boy of the group known for his iconic sunglasses. We also have a gigantic, realistic flying tiger, who's exactly what the name implies. And of course, we have Uncle Grandpa's talking belly bag. There's another semi-prominent character that we're gonna run into a little later, but we'll get there when we get there, okay? With all that, let's jump right in.
Good morning. Good morning.
Uncle Grandpa starts off strong with him being summoned to work with a little boy who's super upset with his body as he can't seem to fit into any of his shirts. I mean, hey, we've all been there. We all need Uncle Grandpa sometimes. Whenever Uncle Grandpa arrives and is told of the situation, his initial thought is not to make the boy's belly smaller or even to buy him larger clothes. No. His idea is that in order for the boy to be ultimately happier given his situation, he must first learn to love his belly as it is.
Check out what I can do with mine.
The boy and Uncle Grandpa go on an adventure together, where the boy is forced to use his belly in order to save both of them from huge man-eating wolves. After their quest is complete, the boy no longer has an issue with his shirts not fitting since he's happy enough with his body to just go without a shirt in general. Without the need for a shirt, the boy's wardrobe distress is taken care of, and Uncle Grandpa takes his leave, ending the episode with a confused mother, as she had no idea her kid was having issues with his body, and now has to face the social consequences of her child not wanting to wear shirts. In the next episode, Uncle Grandpa goes through personal trials and tribulations when giant realistic flying tiger goes missing. And so Uncle Grandpa, along with Pizza Steve and Mr. Gus, go on a small journey in search of her. Uncle Grandpa is confused that she ran away because he forgot to say good morning to her, which is something he apparently does every morning. Ridden with guilt, he goes to the lengths of pouring Frankenstein juice all over the floor, thinking that she must have died as it's the only way he could ever bring her back to life. Well, this didn't really work in finding her since she wasn't dead, nor was she buried in the ground. He does in fact raise the dead, which means that they've got a zombie problem. Little does he know that giant realistic flying tiger was watching from above.
You chased a squirrel up into the tree, but now you're stuck because you're afraid of heights?
And decides to rescue them. On their way home, Uncle Grandpa and giant realistic flying tiger have a heart-to-heart. He apologizes for not saying good morning to her like he always does. And she explains that the reason she ran away was not because of that, but rather because he simply left the door open and she's never wandered around before. Mind you, she can't talk, this is just what he interpreted through her roaring. Uncle Grandpa and giant realistic flying tiger reach an understanding that it was neither of their faults, but rather a mistake by both of them as they fly back home. In this later episode, Uncle Grandpa gets himself into a sticky situation after his head gets stuck in a peanut butter jar. So relatable.
There's a kid out there who needs some help.
Actually, I think I could use some help myself.
Because Uncle Grandpa is out of commission, it's up to Pizza Steve and Mr. Gus to save the day. And by save the day, I mean badly cosplay as Uncle Grandpa in order to help kids. They get called to help a boy, but land on his bike whenever they arrive, which happens to be the thing wrong with him. Not knowing quite what to do, Mr. Gus decides to give the kid a brand new bike. But he doesn't actually have a new bike, so he gives the kid a magic trash can. While this technically did help the kid as he believes the trash can be magic, it doesn't actually give him a brand new bike. Uncle Grandpa is eventually released from his peanut prison and takes them all back in time to move the kid's bike from being destroyed, successfully ending their mission. This next episode is chock full of Godzilla references. It begins with a little boy being frustrated as he wants to be able to make a scary monster movie, but he doesn't have a monster to play the part. Whenever Uncle Grandpa arrives and realizes the problem, he employs Mr. Gus to do it. This goes great at first, but it ends tragically whenever Mr. Gus must perform his death scene, which consists of him being hit with a giant rocket.
Mr. Gus ain't looking so good.
Uncle Grandpa and the rest of his friends are convinced that he actually died, and so is Mr. Gus. Wait a minute, he's crying in his casket? Okay, so he's not actually dead. False alarm. He lays there pretending to be dead until the speeches for his funeral begin to get worse and worse. Eventually, he decides to get up and tell them to stop saying such offensive things about him, which shocks them all as they thought him to be actually dead. In a panic, they all proceed to chase him with chainsaws as they think that he's a real-life zombie. The show then cuts to them watching his Godzilla movie with him in full body bandages after the chaos. Uncle Grandpa is extremely overwhelmed with kids' orders, having already helped 190 kids that morning. While complaining to Gus and Pizza Steve, they suggest to Uncle Grandpa that he go on a little vacation. Taking their advice, Uncle Grandpa heads off to an island where he assumes nobody will be. Unfortunately for him, though, people keep approaching him, asking him to save their island. Apparently, when he arrived, there had been prophecies about him saving them all, and they recognized him right away. They were a tad bit confused whenever he was adamant about not helping them save the island, since all he would have to do is drink from their magical coconut. Still refusing, though, Uncle Grandpa decides to continue eating his hot dogs instead. It gets so bad, however, that the island dwellers have to beg him to save them, telling him that it's too late for him to drink from the coconut.
Why didn't you drink from the coconut?
Vacation.
And the only way to help them is to sacrifice himself by jumping into the volcano? Overwhelmed with demands, Uncle Grandpa agrees only if they lay off him for a bit. He goes up to the volcano and he jumps in, but instead of dying an extremely painful death, he ends up finding it pretty cozy. He's able to swim around and do vacation activities while in the lava. Once back home, he tells Pizza Steve and Mr. Gus about his vacation and lets them know that he'll definitely be jumping into another volcano next time he needs to relax. Uncle Grandpa is continuously one-upped in this next episode. When trying to help several different kids, Uncle Grandpa is beaten to the punch by Aunt Grandma, who appears to be much better at his job than he is. Every time he shows up to take a kid on an adventure, she's already there, and has given the kid exactly what he wants, not teaching them any overarching theme or message. Uncle Grandpa becomes depressed, as he isn't able to do his job properly anymore. Eventually, though, he runs into a little boy who isn't helped by Aunt Grandma, as he was looking for inspiration for the book that he's been writing. Since Aunt Grandma's main focus is giving the kids exactly what they ask for, and then leaving, she was really no help for that. Uncle Grandpa, on the other hand, loves taking kids on adventures, and was a tremendous help to the boy. Aunt Grandma gets frustrated, and explains her story to Uncle Grandpa. Apparently, when she was younger, she had asked him for help, but he was unable to assist her. She wanted help completing her science fair project, but instead of giving her the exact parts that she needed, he took her to a different planet and had her dance with Martians. She got second in her science fair, and never got what she actually wanted. Because of this, she decided to do his job, but better, giving kids exactly what they need. Uncle Grandpa feels bad for her, and he apologizes, but explains that while she may not have seen any good in what he did for her, all he was trying to get across was that she needs to loosen up a bit and learn to have some fun once in a while. He then goes on to tell her that while he can technically give the kids the exact item that they need, they won't grow or learn anything from that. While his talk was meaningful, Aunt Grandma is unimpressed, still insisting that Uncle Grandpa did her dirty when she was younger because of his strange ideologies. The two end up getting in a physical fight, which ends with Aunt Grandma tapping out and leaving with Uncle Grandpa's mustache. The episode ends with Mr. Gus and Pizza Steve foreshadowing that this won't be the last that we see of Aunt Grandma. In this one, Uncle Grandpa is essentially kidnapped by his #1 fan. It begins with him getting reeled to the kid's house by a fishing pole, but once there, he's confused because he thinks he was just led back to his RV, but is shocked to find that it's an exact replica of it. He meets his #1 fan and his mother, who for some reason supports her son's strange obsession. Instead of getting super weirded out, which he should have, Uncle Grandpa accepts this hangout as completely normal.
I made you some hot dogs.
Okay, I'll stay.
And does random things that the kid wants to do throughout the day. None of these things make the kid happy, though. In fact, they make him so upset that he decides to strap on his rollerblades and run away. In hopes of rescuing him from the big bad world, Uncle Grandpa urges him to not skate away, stopping him in the middle of the road to then get hit by several cars.
I'm okay!
Oops.
The episode ends with Uncle Grandpa visiting the kid in the hospital, where the kid forgives Uncle Grandpa for the situation, mostly because he was exposed to the big wide world where he was able to meet her. Uncle Grandpa then sees the TV, and it happens to be a super muscular woman warrior on the TV. In hopes to get his #1 fan back, Uncle Grandpa then goes into the show and becomes a character of his own. Yeah, this one ends kind of weird. I don't know. I'd be doing the show a great disservice if I didn't talk about the Grampies. This little short shows us a kind of a wacky version of the Emmys hosted by Uncle Grandpa. There's a ton of shows on the ballot for the awards, made clear by a bunch of crossover characters in the crowd. The first award is for Best Show for Tweens, which goes to Uncle Grandpa. Next up is the Best Feel-Good Fantasy Adventure series with a furry yellow companion, and with Finn and Jake in the audience, it's pretty clear that this award is going to go to Adventure, and it's Uncle Grandpa. Best Steven Universe episode? Come on, it's obvious. It's Uncle Grandpa. I mean, I guess he did have a crossover, but it definitely was not the best episode.
Never gets old. I guess 3 is the magic number.
Basically, Uncle Grandpa sweeps the award field and nobody else is even getting picked for another season because he's so great. I mean, come on. How can you argue with that? The beginning of Season 3 starts with us learning of a giant realistic flying tiger's upbringing. Apparently, she had a similar story as Ariel from The Little Mermaid. It starts with Tiger being shown to originally be a mer-tiger swimming around in the ocean. She'd always wished to be a regular tiger though, and was one day approached by the evil Bubble Grandpa. He promised her regular tiger legs, but only if she used them to go onto land and retrieve him a burger, as he's never been able to try one, since there really aren't any in the ocean. Tiger agrees, but there's a catch. If Tiger is unable to get him the burger, then he warns that he'll turn her into a sea slug for the rest of her days. While finding a hamburger doesn't seem like too difficult of a task, apparently what Tiger doesn't know is that there isn't a burger joint on land for many, many miles. Meaning there's almost no possible way for her to find one and return it before midnight. Once on land, Tiger runs into Uncle Grandpa and asks him for assistance. Although he doesn't have any transportation, he does inform Tiger that he knows where a burger would be located. In hopes of completing her quest, Tiger offers him a ride on her back, only if in return, he gives her directions. To which he happily agrees, as he's never been able to ride on a tiger before. Many complications arise. But in the end, Uncle Grandpa rescues Tiger from the treacherous Bubble Grandpa, pulling an Uno reverse card and causing Bubble Grandpa to become a sea slug. Aunt Grandma comes back with full force in this next episode, Return of Aunt Grandma. She devises a plan that actually seems to work out perfectly in her favor. She creates a video of Uncle Grandpa saying horribly nasty things to his employees, making him seem like a super bad guy. She then proceeds to show his employees this video.
Giant realistic flying tiger and Tiny Miracle could disappear and I wouldn't even notice they were gone.
Urging them to come work for her instead. The staff listens, as they're hurt by Uncle Grandpa's cruel words. Whenever Uncle Grandpa finds out that all of his staff and friends have left, he decides to leave his business and work for a sandwich shop instead. This goes horribly for him though, as he isn't the best at making sandwiches, leaving him embarrassed and in trouble with his new boss. Not knowing what else to do, he heads to Aunt Grandma's facility to ask for help. While there, he cracks the scheme and realizes that his friends were all tricked. He tells his friends of what actually has been happening, and they all work together to defeat Aunt Grandma. The episode ends with them all apologizing to Uncle Grandpa for going behind his back and not allowing himself to tell his side of things. Meanwhile, we see Aunt Grandma in an insane asylum revealing herself to be some type of cyborg. Okay. Gus decides to move out after feeling like he's been mistreated. Uncle Grandpa and Pizza Steve constantly ask him to do things that he doesn't really want to do, and it seems like he's the only person that lives in the RV that actually has to do hard chores. Because of this, Gus decides to move out for good, renting out his own apartment where hopefully he can finally find some peace. And he does, at first. He loves chilling in his lounge chair by himself, but Uncle Grandpa and Pizza Steve are unhappy with not having him around. But instead of being normal people and apologizing for making Gus feel the way that he did, the two decide to turn themselves into ghosts in order to scare Gus out of his apartment. Their plan actually works, leaving Gus to run away in fear. Unfortunately though, he doesn't understand that it was their souls messing with them. Whenever he gets to the RV, he begins driving it far, far away, where none of the ghosts from the apartment would ever be able to find it. The episode ends with Uncle Grandpa and Pizza Steve hanging out together in the apartment, as they won't be able to leave anytime soon. This later episode of Season 4 mimics many popular horror movies such as Scream. It begins with the trio sitting and hanging out in an RV when all of a sudden they get a phone call. The voice on the other line sounds suspicious, and they tell Uncle Grandpa that they want to give him a nice beating. Gus then tries the phone and also receives strange messages from them. The rest of the episode, they're bombarded by whoever was on the other line, scared out of their minds that something bad is going to happen to them. They get so paranoid that they even deploy a US military tank in order to protect themselves. It's only at the very end of the episode that the man on the other line was revealed to be a German beet farmer who wanted to gift them with his vegetables. The trio realized that the reason he was saying such strange messages was because English isn't his first language. So what he really meant to say was that he wanted to give them some of his beets. The episode ends with them all receiving said beets and pondering their thought process throughout the entirety of the episode. Uncle Grandpa must deal with his anger much more in this episode than usual. As we all know, Uncle Grandpa is supposed to be the fun-loving, helpful family member that we all know and love. He's not quite used to dealing with any emotions other than hopelessness and happiness. For some reason though, nothing is going as planned for him in this episode. He slowly becomes more and more enraged until it's finally revealed that the reason he's getting so frustrated is because Aunt Grandma has purposely been putting obstacles in his way.
I can't take it anymore! It's driving me mad!
Her hope is that if he gets too mad, then he'll face the consequences of being erased from the show, as that much negative energy is not allowed. In hopes to make himself more calm, Uncle Grandpa proceeds to shove an anger management book inside of his head, making it nearly impossible to make him upset about anything in general. Because of his newfound resistance to her tactics, Aunt Grandma gets more and more upset, resulting in her actually reaching the level she was trying to get him to reach in the first place. Because of her overwhelming negative energy, she officially gets erased from the show to never be seen again. We're shown Pizza Steve's past in this next episode, and it's not pretty. It all begins whenever Steve begins talking about his upbringing around the campfire with Uncle Grandpa. Gus is also there, and a random girl that we've never seen before. Apparently, he used to get aggressively bullied by this guy with cool sunglasses. He approached the cool guy after realizing he didn't want to be a lame dishwasher for the rest of his life, but instead of being treated with decency, he was treated more like a bug, and was constantly squashed and physically harmed. Eventually, he got sick of it, and stole the cool sunglasses only to find that they don't fit him correctly.
That's enough vibrating and joy.
Because instead of a regular head, Pizza Steve sports, well, a pizza head. Eventually, he runs into Uncle Grandpa as Pizza Steve showed up on his radar as a kid in need. Uncle Grandpa wasn't the best help ever, but after following his advice, he did find some cool sunglasses that actually fit him, which was pretty nice. Back in real time, the girl that they were with calls Pizza Steve a liar and reveals herself to be the cool guy with the sunglasses. He attempts to harm Pizza Steve again with a bunch of mechanics, but it all ends up blowing up and disappearing, defeating his reveal and his intentions. Uncle Grandpa has an unconventional client today, the Boogeyman. Apparently, instead of scaring children, he's been working as a bus driver with a boring, content life. Uncle Grandpa kind of forces help upon the Boogeyman, assuming that he wants to continue his life of fright. This isn't actually true though, but he does end up making the Boogeyman much more frightening whenever he gets fired due to Uncle Grandpa's meddling.
That job was all I had. This is all your fault.
After getting enraged, the Boogeyman has a newfound motive to be a monster towards Uncle Grandpa, allowing him to live out his good old days again. Uncle Grandpa has his own mishap whenever he can't seem to get his underwear off. And who does Uncle Grandpa go to whenever he can't seem to figure out things? His own Uncle Grandpa.
Uncle Grandpa! I have an Uncle Grandpa?
Except he isn't actually good at helping him in any sort of way. He's actually a dumbed-down version of the regular Uncle Grandpa, making him incredibly stupid. Eventually, his underwear comes off while he's swimming in a swamp, meaning he didn't really need the help of his own Uncle Grandpa in the end. Gus confesses that he meddled with the day as well, trying to get Uncle Grandpa to stop making a mess of the RV that he is constantly having to clean. During his confession, he admits to wanting his own Uncle Grandpa too, leaving them all to be jump-scared by a giant swamp monster resembling Gus. This later episode of Season 5 dives into a Breakfast Club parody involving the characters from Uncle Grandpa, with them all wearing teenager clothing and going to detention together, becoming good friends and working together to make their detention experience as good as it can possibly be. The episode ends with the teacher coming back to extend their detention, but upon realizing that the students actually wouldn't mind spending more time together, he gets frustrated and lets them all out of detention early, wanting them to be as upset as possible. Okay, that is all for Uncle Grandpa. I hope you enjoyed the chaos, and make sure you like and subscribe to never miss another recap from us. Also, please leave a comment on which RV member is your favorite. Until next time, good morning.